Well, welcome back to our community. Susie Thomas visiting with the folks from SCORE. We've got Vera Burton here with Pat Ripple and talking about help that is available. If you've got an idea and you've got a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in you, there is help available from everything from putting together that business plan to budgeting to personnel issues to... Is there anything scarier than hiring somebody? I want to throw that out to both of you. It's like getting married.
It is a big commitment.
It really is.
It should be. It very well should be.
Yeah. What questions should a person ask themselves, and what questions should you ask someone who's applying for a job before you actually commit to work together and see each other so long during the day, maybe more hours than you're going to see your family?
Well, my background's finance, so I really advocate going through the cash flow forecasting to see what we can afford. Is it better, to hire or just contract if that situation is available? It's not always, but depending on the situation. But before just going out and hiring a few staff people, make sure we can pay them.
And for small businesses, one of the pieces of advice that we offer is make sure you're careful that you are not looking at hiring family and friends first. That can always be a problem. I know there are many companies that are family, but be careful when you are looking at the family issue. You can fire a non-related employee, but it's hard to fire family.
And then sit together at the Thanksgiving table.
Awkward, yes.
What about, there are situations where a business has gone from family member to family, generations to generations, and you hit a generation that's just not their thing. Have you dealt with that, where you see some children that were expected to step into the position and carry the torch then and pick it up and run with it, but their heart is somewhere else? Would they be somebody that would come to you and say, what do I do with this? I was handed a business. It's been around for 80 years, and it's not my thing.
I have not counseled anyone personally, but in one of our workshops recently, there was a second-generation family member there that was learning about business because they were looking forward to taking over this business. So I thought that was very positive in that they were preparing themselves with skills to operate into the future.
Absolutely. And it's a wonderful thing for a parent to be able to say, no problem, you've got a job, and it's good if you can run with this, but nice to be able to feel prepared, and hopefully they'd be groomed to be able to step into those roles. But it's something when it's been somebody's just, their real passion, and then that next generation is just not quite their passion. That's harder.
It is difficult, but one of our mentors is a career HR professional, so we would refer that case to him.
And is that a good field for one to go into? I would think right now, HR. It seems like there's always needed.
Yes, particularly in some situations today.
Yes. HR and fundraising.
Yes.
You always see those positions wide open.
Yes, fundraising is always necessary, always needed.
So we are here to try to recruit more women, and anyone who's got an idea, do not feel like SCORE is for the other people. It's for you. If you've got an idea and there is help there, you've got something going on tomorrow. What is that?
As part of our initiative to attract and retain more women mentors, we're holding, I'm district director for Northeast Ohio, so I work with 5 chapters in Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Mansfield, and Youngstown. So we're working together, all 5 chapters, to increase awareness of SCORE to potential women clients and also to attract and recruit women mentors. So tomorrow night at the High and Low Winery on Route 18, the 5 chapters, we're getting together and holding a meet and greet for the women mentors in those chapters, and we've also encouraged people to bring guests as potential mentors.
What's involved in being a mentor?
Well, SCORE does have excellent training. There's I don't know off the bat now how many hours, but it's all online training, and there's several modules, not particularly time-consuming, but there's one on, we have a mentoring philosophy, to make sure that we stop and listen and suspend judgment and be empathetic to the client. We have a very strict code of ethics we have to sign off on, and background on SCORE. So it's very, very good training.
And there's ongoing training also. Yeah.
And this is training to mentor someone else? This is
Yes.
training to become a
To
mentor?
become a mentor,
become a
yes.
So the mentor doesn't have to come up with all kinds of online things.
No. SCORE Association has a director of education, and she is really, really good and has come up with and everything's online as far as the national training. But at the chapter level, we have monthly meetings and usually have someone come in and educate us on a lot of bankers and attorneys.
I compared in my head, I'm comparing it to big sisters, big brothers, little, and so
We're the big
bigs and
sisters
littles.
of business.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or a sorority where you've got a big sis and a little sis, that kind of thing. I've
Yeah, we're
got that in my
mentors,
head.
yes.
So they're kind of like mentors. So is there quite a bit of one-on-one time that a person spends with their mentor, maybe in the beginning and then less and less as you go, or how does that
Well,
work?
for people who are joining the organization to become mentors, they are assigned a coach. I think we have called them guides locally, but they're coaches, and just working with making sure the new mentor gets the training completed, and then there's a minimum of 3 co-counseling sessions, so the new mentor can see the more experienced mentor in action and how he or she relates to the client.
So you really get to do a lot of observing before
Yes.
you're actually thrown into the water.
Right.
To
right.
swim. And I love that. At first, you sign up to become a mentor, and the first thing you do is get a mentor.
Get a mentor, yes.
To learn how to mentor.
And then your first few sessions, you co-counsel with someone.
So there's all of that help. You don't feel like you're just diving right in.
Yeah.
Do you mentor more than one person at a time, or are you pretty much just assigned one person to kind of see along? What if somebody, like you say, fundraising, that person would be tapped out, I would think.
It can be one person. Oftentimes it's one person. But if it's an organization or a group that has several individuals in a position, we will do it as a group.
So, okay. So you could do it all, but you're not having to do so much a week that you might as well come out of retirement and go back to work,
No,
right?
not at all.
Okay.
No, you set the schedule.
We do
No.
set the schedule, yes.
Because understand these people are in business and their schedule is full. So you want to find time that's suitable for both the organization or the individual and the counselor.
I would think that employers would think this was awesome for their employees, or they don't want to lose them, do they? Come to think of it. Retract that. Rewind
Right.
that. They don't want to lose their employees because they've gone off to start another company. But my gosh, what great training for employers.
Yes, it would be. Something else I wanted to mention when it comes to our mentors is we have. There's various levels of volunteering. That we have people we've mentioned that work full time and are usually just co-counseling. They're not the lead counselor, so they're not in charge of setting up the appointments or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Subject matter experts, they just come in to consult on specific cases. People who just want to conduct workshops, so it's very, very flexible organization.
So
to volunteer
maybe
for.
your mentoring experience might be just to conduct a workshop every once in
If
a while.
that's what you want to do, yes.
Get a whole bunch of people and say, I'll show you how to do social media,
Yes.
that kind of a thing, rather
Right.
than working side by side and setting that up and executing it regularly.
Right.
What's going to happen tomorrow? What's that going to look like?
Well, hopefully the horrible weather won't keep people away, but it's from 5:30 to 7:30, so we specifically had an after-work time. So if any was the women mentors we have who are working, and also maybe the guests could come and just meet. We're going to talk about SCORE. We're going to talk about. Our goal is to have one women's event in each chapter this coming year, and we're going to talk about what form that's going to take.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think it's key to mention that we want to help the chapters develop their sessions, their workshops. So this group is coming together to develop
What these workshops will
Right.
be, topics and so forth of need. Is there one thing or anything in particular that stops somebody from moving forward with a great idea?
Oh, it can be so many reasons. Funding can be an issue. But no, we've had some, obviously I can't tell you details, but I've had some really good experiences in helping people come through with a plan and getting that business plan polished and getting them ready to go talk to a funder, whether it's private or a bank, and seeing them actually open their business and be successful.
That's so awesome.
It
That's
is-
just got to
it
feel
is-
so
It
rewarding.
is a very, very awesome feeling.
Is there any time that a person really shouldn't come to you? At what point would it be, you need to go back and work on this a little bit longer?
We have, we strive to be very empathetic, and if we have, and 16 years I've been doing this, certainly have had opportunities to meet with people who are not ready, and we can usually just work through that and point out things the person needs to know. We tend to give people assignments, and you just give people enough assignments and they start learning, and then sometimes they just back out of the process.
Would there be something a person should ask themselves to determine whether they're ready? What kinds of questions should I ask myself before I come to SCORE? Like, do I have this? Do I have that? Are my ducks in a row?
Well, one of the questions that I ask individuals, are you ready to work more than 40 hours a week?
Right.
Yes, because you are going to work a lot more hours in your own business than you have in what you're doing now, more than likely.
There's an old saying that I love, that when people go into business for themselves because they only want to work half days, and you get to decide which 12 hours every day that is.
That's a good point.
So, actually, isn't it true?
It is true. I also wanted to mention that we have a new tool available to us. It's an entrepreneurial assessment tool. That if
That's
someone,
what I'm trying to get at. Yes,
Right.
that sounds
It's
awesome. What
just-
is that?
It's a fairly new program, but it's kind of like a personality test for entrepreneurs. And the company put this together, looked at I think it's 12 most prominent traits of successful entrepreneurs. So it's
I think that's great. And
It
I
is.
honestly think everybody ought to have to be in business for themselves at some point, even whether or not they stay there. Because then you are starting to think in terms of a finished product. You don't get paid until you have a finished product. You don't just go into work and put in some hours and then leave and collect a paycheck every 2 weeks. You have to finish an assignment, or else your client is not going to pay you. And I think that just makes for a better employee, period. What your thoughts on that?
oh gosh, yeah, discipline is one of those attributes that an entrepreneur needs. Just the discipline to do the things that he or she doesn't like to do. And finance usually isn't the top of people's list of things they really enjoy doing when they're not in finance.
Yes, thank goodness there are people like you. That's your wheelhouse.
It is.
So will we find that assessment tool on the website?
You would work with client would work with one of our mentors.
Great.
And the goal is to actually have a workshop about this and have the participants take the assessment and then come and learn how to work with it and use it.
Well, it certainly sounds like you've got all the bases covered. It sounds wonderful. Where do we go again tomorrow and what time?
Tomorrow we're going to be at the High Low Winery on Route 18. The address is really Medina, and 5:30 to 7:30.
Okay, just come and find out some information.
Absolutely. And, we love to network.
Yes, that's what it's about. What's your website? You have one? You have a website?
Yes, we
Always
do.
the question that throws everybody is what's your website and what's your phone number? But let's go with a website. I'm sure we could just Google SCORE Starr County, right? Or what is it?
Canton.score.org.
Canton.score.org. That's canton.score.org. Find everything there. Vera Burton, Pat Ripple, and SCORE. Thank you so much for what you're doing in our community.
Well, you're welcome,
Thank
Susie.
you for
Thank
having
you.
us.